Okay, so there's been a lot of talk about this house, the fact that it's the first fully structurally concrete house in the solar decathlon team. So my question is, why do you think that Team New Jersey chose this particular type of building, this building type?
Wow, lots of reasons why we went concrete here. Right off the bat, just the performative aspect of concrete, its thermal properties. And its thermal properties, yes. The thermal mass of the building. Case studies have shown that in a hot summer day, the temperature won't change more than 5 degrees without any mechanical systems. So the properties are indicative to green design.
Right, exactly. Basically what Zach is saying is that the house will hold the heat inside for longer, and it'll keep the cold out for longer, or the hot, depending on what the scenario is. Basically, the mass of the wall actually will store a large amount of heat, and that enables us to kind of moderate the temperature to a much greater degree within the house.
Yeah. So store and absorb. So as it gets hotter outside, the walls will absorb the heat from the interior, removing it from the interior air. So we don't need air conditioning. Another reason, a marketing standpoint, we're working for elderly people, people retiring, not specifically elderly, but we actually had a meeting with someone who is looking for a house similar to ours. They're looking for more square footage, but we're not able to provide that and stay within the terms of the competition. So through conversation with him, a big kind of desire is something that will last, something low maintenance, and concrete is both low maintenance and very long lasting.
Right, and building off of that, just in terms of our marketability of our house, by making it out of concrete, we eliminate a lot of the trades that would traditionally be used. You don't have a lot of interior finishes, things of that nature, so that makes it go up a lot faster and kind of eliminates any kind of sort of discrepancy amongst trades and things like that. So it's a lot less complications.
Right, much simpler design. Do you think? It doesn't seem like a traditional beach house in its material structure. And do you think that that would turn certain people off from market standpoint? And how would you say the design has kind of tried to make up for discrepancies in that?
So yeah, it doesn't fit into beach house. It doesn't fit into house even. But because we're using precast concrete, we immediately don't fit into house. So we're trying to come up with a kind of new solution for what house is.
A new type of house, right?
We're trying to really kind of make that exciting, like see what we can do with precast, which is a non-traditional residential building material, and kind of and really push that to the limit in terms of the form and the performance of it. So those two things alone, might outweigh the kind of traditional aesthetic and how it does not fit into that kind of category.
Right. So obviously you've mentioned the thermal mass already and the energy savings associated with the concrete. In terms of specific ways that you've shaped the house and the way that the design has come in, what seems to have worked the best in your experiments with the concrete, and what hasn't worked?
Well, lots of things haven't worked. We came into this project at the onset of the project, but we all had kind of different directions. So Andrew was on a team of people and designed a house. I was with a team of people, a smaller team of people, and we designed a house. The house that I was working on was fiberglass. It would have been routed on this thing. So concrete's kind of a much different direction, but one of the teams did pursue that. The
hardest
So-
part, I would say, is like kind of the nature of precast concrete is it's large, kind of clumsy, big pieces, and what we want to do is kind of attach them together rather elegantly, and that becomes the issue. Is detailing those connections is kind of what we've been faced with. The kind of the most difficult task that we've been faced with is kind of like making this very heavy material appear light or appear to do things that it wouldn't typically do. You can see the roof floating. That's not something that you would typically see in a kind of concrete construction or even a typical residential construction.
And that's would you say that's changed the design over time? That
The
desire?
use of the material, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Coming from the backgrounds of the other construction types that Andrew and I were both working with, and then landing in concrete with no experience in concrete, as we developed our levels of experience with the material, we developed the project itself. We improved it. There have been many iterations of roof design, wall design, the way it's going to be broken up and shipped, reassembled. And every iteration is kind of begins when something that doesn't work is discovered. But so there have been dozens and dozens and dozens of iterations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the obvious, even like just the most obvious answer to that question would be that concrete's really heavy, and there's restrictions for the competition as to kind of bearing capacity or bearing like the most that you could most bearing pressure on the soil, the greatest amount of bearing pressure on the soil, and like all that's factored into our design. Just the sheer weight of the house has been a real driving force in terms of our design of it.
So yeah, I guess that leads into my last question. So there's been a lot of evolution with the process, as you said, many different iterations. So going into this these last few days before the design has to be delivered, how do you feel about the upcoming finished product?
I feel really great. I feel like we've put a lot of work in with our consultants from Rutgers, Arup, and Northeast Precast over the past few months. We've learned a lot about what we need to do, and I feel like we're pretty close to, if not exactly there, to an understanding of the nuts and bolts of how this thing is going to go together, which is what we're responsible for. So now it's just doing the work and getting it documented.
Right, and it's good that we put in a lot of time into the kind of, there's been a number of different tools that we've had to use to kind of get the design to the level it's at, and even the amount of documentation that we're now at, the kind of level of detail that we're putting into our drawings, and just, having, getting experienced in those tools is something that's enabled us to kind of get this project and the documentation of it to the level it's at now. Is really, we're really kind of confident about where it's going. I feel like we've done the due diligence, and that it's coming together nicely now.
Yeah.
Or less.
We just worked out the last major connection for the DD submission. And it was probably the biggest, most challenging connection. We had something that would have worked coming into today's meeting, and we left with something that works and we like. So, feeling great. A lot of work ahead, but feeling good.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.